Okay, so first and foremost, before I get started, I wanted to share with you all the life of a speaker and what it's like to speak at the CTI Summit this year in particular. And I'm going to start off in August 13th when I got accepted to speak here, and I can't tell you the level of excitement that I had. I was like, I'm going to bring this information. And then Rick Holland tweets in November, guess who the keynote is? Cliff Stoll. And I'm like, awesome. I got to speak at this event too. I got a lot to live up to here. There's a lot going on. And then the schedule came out, and I was like, okay, I can do this. I can handle this. And the schedule came out, and then I found out, hey, Matt, we're going to put you in between the sugar and warming seats for Ronnie. And Ronnie's one of my favorite speakers, so I'm very happy to be here and get you all amped up and pumped up for Ronnie's talk. But hopefully, in between now and then, we'll have some fun talking about email scams. All right, so here's an agenda. I'm not going to ask you to read through it. I'm not going to read it to you because we're actually going to go through it live, straight Bill O'Reilly style. So, first and foremost, this is the most boring slide in the entire deck, by the way. My name is Matt Bromiley. As Kyle mentioned, I'm from Dallas, Texas. I'm originally actually from this area. Could not be happier to have left it, especially now. I work at a company called Kroll. Anyone here heard of Kroll before I mentioned it? All right, a few. Okay. Who here heard of Kroll when they looked me up on LinkedIn right prior to this talk? Okay, all right, luckily we got away. I also do a lot of work with SANS. I'm a forensic 508 instructor. I work with the Secure the Human program and also our analyst program as well. My hobbies, well, I'm a big family guy. Got a little 2-year-old at home who's wondering where I am right now. I'm a huge foodie. I can't live in a barbecue state and not enjoy the food that we've got there. However, being from this area, I got a hankering for crab cakes every now and then. And then really, I'm one of those, I don't work a day in my life because I love what I do. Yes, I do DFIR on the side. That is what I like. It's my passion. So like I said, most boring slide. All right, let's move on to the fun stuff. Why does this matter? I have to apologize. I don't have any fancy bears to throw your way. I'm not slinging pandas over my shoulder. I am here to talk to you about emails. Woo! Exciting, right? Emails. And then Cliff shows up, and I'm like, I really need to find a way to make this exciting. All right, let's start in January 2015. I apologize for the size on this. We had a little bit of a sizing issue, but that's okay. I can read it to you. January 2015, we had an alert from the FBI that came out that in about 14 months, $214 million was stolen because of this scam. Fast forward to August, a whopping 7 months. We're now up to $500 million, $585 million stolen, about 8,100 victims. Let's go even further. Now we're in April 2016. And our amount is up to $1.5 billion stolen since October 2013. And then last but not least, in June 2016, we got another alert from the FBI. We're now up to $3.1 billion stolen via this scam between October 2013 and June 2016. Pandas may be cool. You know what's cooler than a panda? $3.1 billion. Definitely cooler. 3.1 billion as of June 2016. Daily average of $3.1 million. Anyone here making that daily? If so, I'm hanging up this microphone and we're going to go have a chat. Most successful month was $400 million in 1 month. Ransomware sounds kind of cool. That's all right. State-sponsored attackers, interesting. I'll go escape with $3.1 billion off to the side if I can. Who here thinks this is probably the most sophisticated attack they've ever seen as well? Yeah, a little preview of what's going to happen, right? $3.1 billion. I mean, has anyone here looked at the list of non-extradition countries lately? There's a few island nations on there. Just saying. Just saying. All right, let's talk a little bit about what these business email scams actually are. Hopefully this is going to seem fairly familiar because you folks have read on it. And I know, don't deny it, for some of you, it's going to seem intimately familiar because you had to deal with it inside of your organization. I already see one head nodding, like, yes, that was me. I had to deal with this. It's not fun. Few key ingredients. And you're going to see like this sounds a lot like fishing, Matt. Okay. Key ingredients. I need a smaller kind of business. We not see so much of a small business as opposed to medium to businesses that operate in the millions. That doesn't mean big businesses don't get hit, though. Your fortune companies do get hit with this as well. Can anyone think of why I'm going after kind of that middle tier? I'm not going after mom and pop one-stop grocery shops. I want the people who do maybe 10, 15 million in revenue a year. What do my big banks have in place? Very good fraud detection. What's that? They process more transactions. Exactly. They're used to the amounts that I want to steal. I don't want to steal 3.1 billion at a time because someone's going to come after me. Anyone remember that Swift hack that we had where they were poised to steal billions and billions of dollars? How did that work out for them? Not very well, right? One little typo and you lose yourself a bunch of billions of dollars. In this case, though, we're just going to chip away. I also need an incorrect domain. We're going to talk about that in just a second. I need a CEO name and a CFO name. Those are hard to come by, right? Really tough to come by those ones. And then I need some random person in accounting who doesn't want to piss the boss off. Really straightforward. My last 3 bullets, where can I get those from? Yeah, I mean, Google, maybe. Maybe this stuff is being indexed and stored somewhere. Maybe my business has access to this kind of information. So that's all I need. Like I said, non-extradition countries. There's some really nice ones out there. We've got all the ingredients. Let's make some soup. All right. You've got 2 seconds. What do we got on here? Anyone tell me, are these the same? Someone shout it out. What's that? I heard lowercase l. It looks like there's a space in between the M, the I, and the C, right? You guys agree there's a space there? Sorry, loaded answer. It's actually a 1 that was in there. Really hard to tell. To be honest with you, I flipped through about 40 different fonts before I found the one that made the image that I wanted. However, the hype is real. This really happens. This makes sense to us in this room. Every person watching this presentation says, yeah, of course I'm looking out for this kind of stuff. 1s instead of I's or L's, 0s instead of O's, so on and so forth. It makes sense. Extra letters, letters for numbers, transpose. Anyone catch the second line there? Whiskey versus iski. That one likes to slip people up a lot. I like that one, because especially those of you in the back, it just kind of blends together. And then another thing, too, is infos, biz, .cos, all the different sites. I have a .com and a .net and a .org registered for my organization. Do I have the rest as well? If not, I need to go see what's going on with it. Guess what? These are not trained eyes. Let's go back to this slide real quick. Does anything on this list say InfoSec, IT admin, CSO? No. This is a group of people who we know do not know the difference between these different types of things. How do we acquire these different types of domains? Few resources available. First and foremost, there's a lot of companies that actually target these types of businesses. And they say, you can purchase a domain really easy, really cheap. I'm going to give you a 30 days, 60 days, 90 days free, and you're going to be able to test out my services. I'll give you a free webmail, 500 business cards to get your business off the ground. Risk-free, $0.99. If I'm someone sitting in a country that wants to steal some money, I'm thinking to myself, awesome. All I need is one stolen credit card number, and I can run all types of things through it. There's a reference at the end. Ronnie, who, like I said, I'm warming the seat for here, actually has a really, really, really awesome blog post on that. Vistaprint, we can allow an account set up with not even a charge. Took a card with a penny on it and tried to use it to register, and it worked. 1 month free trial. All I need is 1 month. All I need is one email to get in, and I can get it for free. Not a bad entry vector. The account setup, and this is my favorite part. I used to have like a little walkthrough on here, but we're not doing a live demo. But Vistaprint, you actually used to be able to set it up, and they would give you a free webmail account to go with your domain. So now I'm asking you, how skilled are my attackers, right? They register this fake domain, they get these transpose letters, they find a way to fool you, then they've got to set up this hidden email service, right? They've got to be super smart at setting up these things. Nope, Vistaprint does it all for them for free. In 90% of cases, Vistaprint is our purveyor for this particular one. And this is not a jab at Vistaprint. They actually run a legitimate business. They've got great commercials. I want 500 business cards for free if I'm going to start my business, definitely. But I don't want someone attacking me and coming after it. All right, I'm going to do a count in the back of my head. I want everyone to take a look at this email. Okay, that was 8 seconds, or give or take a few. 8 seconds is the average time the human being reads an email when it comes into their inbox. How many errors did we see? Anyone? One? Which one? The from address. All right, good catch. The from address. We've got some transposing here. Did anyone skip over that part and go right to the subject or right to the body? Yeah, they didn't focus on that whatsoever. Guess what everyone else does? Especially in the accounting department. There's an email coming in from my CEO. I know who my CEO is. I'm going to go right to the subject part. Did anyone catch this one? Friday at 4 minutes to 5. I just want to go home at that point. Believe me, this happens for a particular reason. How about this one? Anyone pick up on that? It's not an actual forward. How easy is it to fake a forward? Just take the text from the email, throw it into ASCII, paste it, and you're done. That's it. That's what a forward looks like. I like that they took the extra step here and actually made links, because then it looks a little bit more legit as opposed to just raw text. And then last but not least, we got a PDF attached with it as well. Any malware in here? Doesn't look like it, right? Any princes? Kings? Send me money, I'll do this. No, it looks like the CEO is asking the CEO, it looks like Jim is asking Jane, hey, do me a favor, wire some money to this vendor, and then Jim passes it on to John and says, hey, John, do me a favor, take care of this for me, I'm busy.
Your forward's also off, you got parens on the 2 and square braces on the front.
There we go, there's another catch as well. We don't focus in on that one, but Mike is definitely right. There's other things here that should trip us. Again, a room full of trained eyes. Not a room full of accountants who at 5 to 5 on a Friday just want to go home. Important takeaway. Good catch, though. All right. So now we know a little bit about what this scam looks like, what this attack actually looks like. Let's define this campaign. Let's build this out. Let's have some threat intel fun. I think that's what we're here for. So we have some indicators, right? We have a transposed domain. Can I do anything with that domain? Any thoughts? I could, right? I could go buy $1 million a year threat intel service, and I could pump that domain through those indicators and see what comes back. Definitely. What am I going to get? Registered at Vistaprint 3 days ago. Next. Doesn't do much for me. How about a PDF? Any use in a PDF? It's not malicious, right? We already talked about this. There's no malware inside. It's just a text document. Yes, there are. We have a title and an MD5. Anything out of those? No, not really. Fairly arbitrary. Change a bit, you can change one. How about machine information? Now I'm starting to understand a little bit about the person who created this PDF, what version they used, how they wrote it. Did they export from Word? Did they export from Google Chrome? Did they use Adobe Acrobat? Timestamps. What do timestamps tell me? My domain was registered then, my PDF was created then, it was sent then, and then money was sent out now. It tells me how quickly my attackers are actually mounting and building this campaign. If I have an attacker who did all of those steps within 4 minutes of each other, what does that tell you about the recon phase of this attack? It is definitely happening way beforehand. And the author. Author is the important part I'm going to focus on. Who here, actually I know the answer, but I'm going to ask anyways. Who here, when they publish a document, uses Office Inspector to clear out all metadata from the document? Everyone, right? I know you guys just don't want to raise your hand. Sugar rush and whatnot from brownies and cookies. That's okay. I know everyone does, but unfortunately our bad guys don't. And then bank info. We'll talk about bank info in a little bit. Let's start with our PDF metadata. We got an author here. He goes by the name Bosslod, B-O-S-S-L-O-D. Well, I wonder if Bosslod has written any other documents. Anyone here familiar with malware.com? Take away the last 2 vowels, right? Malware.com. What is malware.com? It's a cuckoo sandbox online. Upload your stuff and see what's bad. What do we teach all of our people to do? If you think it's bad, don't click it. If you think it's a bad document, upload it and check it. Look to see if it has viruses inside. Guess what the average accountant does? They upload this document, it comes back with a 0 score, and they say, oh, this isn't malware. I can do what it says. How did a letter not being malicious turn into you can follow the instructions inside? That's a common problem that we see between there. So let's do a little search and see if Bosslod has written anything else and if it's been uploaded to a source. By the way, I just focus on malware for this discussion. There's a lot of other open source, and I'm calling them open source intelligence sources, but quite frankly, it's not really what it is. We're just using it for that. 17 different results came back. So Bosslod, it looks like he has written 17 different documents. I'm going to go through and take a look and see how many of these we actually have. How many are actually authored by Bosslod? How many people wrote a document and just threw the term Bosslod inside it? I don't know what Bosslod means. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it does. But I know some guy likes to go by it. We start to profile this. What looks familiar here? Yeah, I think Bosslod has a pretty static document naming convention that he uses when he sends these out. R&R engraving, oriental wiring, they all finish with wiring instructions. What's the problem with following this as an indicator, though? Remember, what's that? It's going to change. This is a user-uploaded document. The user may rename it to whatever they want, so we've got to be a little bit careful with this. Luckily, a lot of our users stuck with the former name and uploaded it that way. So now I can start to profile. Well, let's take it a step further. I filtered on what Bosslod does, but now I know that they also like to name their documents the same as well. Let's do a search for wiring instructions. We're on Google search number 2. We've worked for about 3 seconds at this point. We'll bill a couple hours, because that's what we do as consultants, but you know, well, it's a 3-second Google search. 55 results. Now, I have to put in a disclaimer here. This is going to get very distracting very quickly. For the sole purpose of the term wiring instructions does not mean it's related to this campaign. So we have to do a little bit of digging. So we did a little bit of digging. In fact, I did about 3 minutes of digging for you. 3 minutes. And here's what we came out with. 16 different authors, 29 different documents, 9 different banks in about 3 minutes of searching and just hopping from term to term to term to term. Now again, we haven't discussed how much money each thing brings in because I don't have that content, but all I have is how prolific is this campaign? Is it a one-stop shop? Is it a lot of different folks out there? What's my chokehold here? What's my choke point? Yeah, banks. We'll come back to that in just a moment. But I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, I got a lot of different authors. Problem with an author, I can change that field. We found a few different authors. We found folks like Compaq, Houdini. Again, our friend Boss Law does make an appearance in there as well. Ray, Kills, Kulvis Amu, Rizwan Khalid. This is a fun-looking gang. I want to hang out with these guys where, hey, Kills, do me a favor. Put together that phishing campaign and let's send that off to ABC Industries if you want. So some really interesting names. We had a couple of empty documents as well. Maybe they got smart. Think about what you're talking about when you see an attacker drop their author name into a PDF document and then all of a sudden they don't 6 months down the line. Maybe they're learning a little bit. Maybe they're getting a little more intelligent. Maybe they got a brand new computer. They don't know how to use it. We actually saw a couple of these authors move from Windows to Macs and they very clearly did not know how to use a Mac. What banks did they like to use? Banks we're all familiar with for the most part, right? HSBC, Bank of America, TD Canada. I've never heard of China Construction Bank. I have a sneaky suspicion as to what they do, but things I haven't heard of before. Texas Bank, that one hit kind of hard when I found that one. I was like, come on, stay out of my state, go away. And then Citizens Bank as well. Again, none of these right off the bat, they're not legitimate banks. These are legitimate banks that they're using to launder money through. Some banks may be only used once. I'll go back real quick. You'll see like HSBC, Hang Seng, and Bank of America get quite a few mentions. They like to use those. They like to funnel this money through Hong Kong. That's a big one because it's very easy to set up an account, hire someone to go pull it out for you. But sometimes they got to stay stateside as well. Sometimes we'll see things like HSBC, China City Bank International Limited, which I think just really wanted to be an official name and threw as many adjectives as they could in there. JP Morgan Chase, First Trade, so on and so forth. So we're starting to see not only the banks that they commonly use, but then we start to also profile why do they step out of their comfort zone. If Rizwan Khalid is very familiar with the process of setting up and stealing money through an HSBC account, why does Rizwan Khalid all of a sudden move to using Bank of America? Why does he move to using some of these other more local banks that I may not be too familiar with? Did they get caught? Are they starting to get, people starting to understand the campaign? Are they not getting money if they use one bank? So now we're starting to understand a little bit more about how they start to progress through the different banks that they use. Are my attackers getting smarter? Are they learning more? Are there some banks that are more vulnerable to this type of scam? So we've profiled these attackers out. We've identified some banks. Seems like fun stuff. We've talked about some of the data that we've talked about some of the accounts that they use. We've talked about their usernames. We've looked at the different banks that they do banking out of. We've got a lot of indicators here. We started with one PDF that had nothing inside of it whatsoever. It was fairly benign, and we extrapolated that into a campaign with a lot of different things, and that was in 3 minutes of searching. I promise you all, I do not want to convolute this slide, but the research I've done over the past 3 years, this thing is hundreds and hundreds of nodes wide. It goes out there. $3.1 billion ain't easy to come by. You got to do a lot of work for that one. But let's focus on the more important part and the big takeaway from this talk. We started with one PDF. We branched out to all of this. Now everyone wants to know, how do we get better? How does an attack that stole $3.1 billion from us over the past 4 years, how do we start to get better and defend against this? Anyone recognize this? Maybe. I think Mike recognizes it just a little bit here. As threat intel, we're meant to use models such as this. This is not the only model, but we're meant to use models like this and fill in these blanks, right? How do my attackers recon my environment? How do they weaponize? How do they deliver? How do they exploit? How do they then achieve their objective and steal money from my environment? What happens when my attacker starts the recon, 1, 2, skips a few, and just steals money out the door? There's no malware dropped. There's no account privilege. There's no lateral movement. There's no 0 days. There's no fancy interpreter shells. They literally sent one email and walked out of the door with $200,000, $400,000, $700,000. How do we get better? How do I defend against this? Let's look at our evidence. We had a PDF, fairly benign PDF, just a bunch of text inside. Help me out here because I really want to know. Is this going to defend? It's an internal email, right? What am I going to do, block email? Anyone tried to block email in their firewall before? If anyone wants to, you could try right now. It's going to be interesting. We'll watch you run out with your hair on fire. How about this? This going to help? We're actually focusing a little bit. How about this? AV helps, right? AV is going to catch everything. That was a really big woo from, I'm assuming, someone who works with an AV vendor over there. HIDS, HIPS, these going to help? NIDS, NIPS? How about this? Email prevention is going to help, right? We're going to detonate that PDF inside of a sandbox and then pull out its indicators and block it all going forward. What indicators? Well, you're going to launch a company that operates off of the author field of a PDF? Not going to work really well. This is why this attack is so dangerous, because as InfoSec folks, as CTI folks, as responders, we rely on these things to tell us when something doesn't fit right in our environment. And now all of a sudden there's an attacker who's found a way to circumvent all the things that don't fit right. We're going to talk about where they're attacking in just a moment as well. All right, so we're going to come back to our kill chain here. And once again, I'm going to ask you, as CTI folks, as incident responders, how do we deal with an attacker who just says, forget the middle steps? I'm going to go right to the end. How do we deal with this particular type of attacker? Well, some folks may say focus on the reconnaissance. Not a bad idea. Tell you what, we're going to set up some LinkedIn visitation scraping scripts, and every hour we're going to scrape LinkedIn and see who's visited our site. Are we able to actually do that? No, but yet it's all public. And tell you what, then you've also got to scrape your financial statements. You got to see who's scraping every article that's ever been written about you. Okay, all right, recon's not going to work. Got it. Makes sense. How about our actions on objectives? Let's focus here. And this is where I'm going to challenge my threat intel folks to think about what this means. Usually as an incident responder, if this is where you're at, oh crap, we're going to need to shut something down. Things have burned. For CTI, I'm going to ask you to say, how does this turn into an opportunity for me? How does this turn into an opportunity for my business? Let's take a look and see how this goes. What happens in this particular phase of this attacker lifecycle, of this cyber kill chain? An employee gets an email. The employee initiates the transfer, and then money goes out the door. That's right, 3 steps, really simple. How do I defend against this? How do I protect against an employee doing this? Some may look at this and say, this is futile. There's nothing I can do. Or my favorite statement, which I'm going to ask everyone to never say again. This stupid user clicked on stupid XYZ ABC and then stupid event happened. And I'm going to ask you not to ever say that again, because your job is to protect the organization. And if you think that by sitting back and reading feeds every day you're going to do that, no, we've got to expand our branches. Take a look at this here. 3 different steps, right? Money walking out the door. Do you see InfoSec in there? No. Definitely doesn't cross the IT admin. Do you see anything that is going to involve anyone in this room? Not necessarily, but I'm going to tell you this is where you can get involved. Number 1, you do have a choke point. You do have a choke point in this process where you can ask and talk to your accounting department and say, ask yourself when transfers come through, is this normally how I receive requests? We're a multi-million-dollar business. Do you normally get transfer requests in a forward from the CFO to the CEO or the CEO to the CFO that says, hey, sorry, I'm golfing. Can you send this out real quick? I forgot to tell you about that $400,000 payment we're making to Hang Seng Bank. Is this who I normally receive requests from? I've met a lot of CEOs and sat in a lot of boardrooms in my time. Very rarely am I interrupting a discussion where the CEO is like, hey, Jen, did you send those invoices out? I just want to make sure that the accounting is on top of things. You may have a super micromanaging CEO in that particular case. Very rarely, though, is this coming from them. Here's my other choke point as well. This is where I'm going to work with my accounting department and say, do we normally work with these banks? I'm a small business that runs in Texas. I do $10 million a year in revenue, let's say. An email comes through. Hey, do me a favor, send $500,000 over to Hang Seng Bank in China. What? I don't do business with you. I don't know who you are. The best thing that can ever come out of these types of attacks is ask someone, what happened here? This doesn't make sense. And then set up a do not transfer list. We already went through a list of banks that need to go through. We went through a list of banks that we know our attackers are going after. Guess what I'm doing if I work in threat intel and I've seen this campaign? I'm going to my accounting department and I'm saying, hey, here's a list of 10 banks. Do we do business with these banks? No? Okay, good. In the future, if we ever do, I need dual signatures and I need to be notified if that request comes through. Because my job is to protect this organization. And I don't want to sit back and watch you send a bulk sum of money to HSBC and then all of a sudden the security department, which already has ridiculously low funding, gets an even bigger cut because accounting needs more money to make up for their mishap. Realize where your front lines are. Again, I'm going to go back here and tell you all that all of these choke points, this is your accounting department. How many people here think about their accounting or their marketing departments as their front line? Yeah, right? Once the malware gets in the system, I'm going to find it somehow, right? I'm going to detect that lateral movement. I'm going to find those shells. Why don't I go back to the front line and say, hey, stop clicking on stuff. Don't open things. And that, you want to talk about an exercise in futility, ask your marketing department to stop clicking on things. It's a very, very tough thing to go through. But I'm going to say at this point, guess what? If you have go have a discussion with your accounting department and you stop $1 million, $2 million from walking out the door, there's brownie points and then there's what you just got inside the organization. I'm telling you, it's the next level of stuff. So think about where your front lines actually are. If you fit into this type of business that is most likely going to get targeted for these, if you have a department with not very strong InfoSec around the accounting, if you fit into one of those, we don't have a really big fraud detection mechanism, but we do transfer millions of dollars a year, then you need to be thinking about what your different front lines are. And once you identify those, arm them with everything they need to be successful. Hey, accounting department, here's a list of 10 banks we never work with. Do not send money here. Put on a Post-it note, put in a little Excel table, print it out, put it all inside their cubicles, boom. Guess what? Like I said, you just stopped a bunch of $1 million from walking out the door. Notice we haven't talked about any sort of animal whatsoever. Thank you. All right, for the business, take this document to them. Hey, accounting, is this what this looks like? Is this what a normal wire transfer comes in as? Someone's half-ass attempt at drawing up details inside of a Word document and converting to PDF? Do we work with them? Does it match our details? Does this vendor information look familiar? The best way to stop this is to ask our accounting department to stop and think. Again, thinking about where our front lines are. Sharing is caring as well. And this is where I'm going to tell you all right now, if this is the first time you're hearing about business email scams, we're in trouble. Because something that steals $400 million a month should not be news to us by now. It should be a big event that we're aware of. Krebs should not be your IDS. It's this ridiculous meme I see thrown around the internet. Krebs is my IDS. That is the worst IDS you can have. Is a journalist publishing your data breach. Trust me, you do not want to be in that particular state. Admitting to being phished is not embarrassing. Trust me, we are all being phished right now in one way, shape, or form. It's okay to admit increases and decreases, and it's okay to share those indicators. Take that list of banks and share it with your competitors. There's nothing wrong with sharing and admitting to what's going on here. Don't use this as a leg up. And I'm going to take a couple minutes and just focus on this, and luckily this has actually already been said today, so I get to kind of lean and stand on the shoulders of giants. Everyone in this room already has free threat intel source. You all know that, right? Yes, what is it? Your own environment. Everyone here has your own threat intel. Splunk folks did a much better job of summing it up, so I'm just going to leave it at that. If you're protecting an organization and you're not keeping notes about the things going on in your environment, there's something wrong with what you're doing. We get better by learning cumulatively, not resetting the clock every day. And I know this crowd is not doing this, but I'm going to say it just in case someone's looking for that branch to grab onto. Tracking your own threat intel can be an easy start. Don't fall into the trap of, I'm a small, medium-sized business. I'm already having enough time trying to keep unpatched Java and unpatched Flash in check. Start with Notepad, Note++. Record your indicators. Again, this is not a sophisticated campaign. I'm not asking you to buy any sort of expensive feed to protect against emails. Include enough information that if you read this again in the future, you would remember the event fully. Who here has ever said to themselves, oh, I will definitely remember that? In fact, I'm going to give you a bigger challenge. Record enough notes that if it happened in 1986, you can present on it in 2017. Level up your life. Use Excel. We've talked about Excel being the best analyst tool. Whose mind here just went... That's right. This entire campaign, everything I talked about today was recorded in Excel. I know, there was no fancy thing behind it. It allows you to maintain relational data, but more importantly, it lets you as a human do what you're best at. I am not the best at reciting MD5s. I'm not the best at reciting file names. I am the best in taking a split-second look at that document and saying, there's a lot going on in Queens Road in Hong Kong. That's what I'm good at. So put the information in a way that I can look at it. Or if worst comes to absolute worst and you can't stand Excel, but you need something a little more powerful, then use the tools that are out there. Anyone here using any of these? ThreatNote, Crits, MISP. These types of tools are out there to help you track this information. You can do it for free. And if you say to me, Matt, I don't have time to prop up a Linux server and do this, I'm going to say, guess what? You have a lot of time for a good learning opportunity. It does get better, everyone. We talked about Colvis Amu as one of our attackers, and I'm done after this, I promise. Remember this name? Colvis Amu was tied to one particular document that came through, one particular document that was uploaded on malware. Mr. Amu and I had quite a few run-ins on an investigation side. He's actually responsible for quite a few documents. You may be wondering, why am I looking at this picture of Kolvis up here? Well, Kolvis was pretty prolific and active from 2013 up until 2015. And then in August of 2015, he stopped. Anyone know why? Because of everything that we do as threat intel, sometimes here, who feels like giving information to law enforcement is a one-way road? Sometimes you do, right? Guess what? I promise you it's not. In August of 2015, Kolvis and Mew got arrested for cases that we investigated and accidentally proved him as the author of these. Just so happened to be in Dallas, which was really cool. It was nice that happened there. But the takeaway from this is all this work we do, all this research that we do, and everything we go into, sometimes you don't see the silver line at the end. But it's there, I promise you. Keep doing the good work, keep doing the research, keep finding these attackers. We'll catch them. There's a good reference slide. The slides will obviously be available. This is all the different points I've talked about for you to go through. And I do give Ronnie a shout out for his presentation on Vistaprint as well. But with that, everyone, thank you very much for attending the presentation. A lot of fun.